do it, so do it with me. You are the DJ, hit the key. Do it squat, bend the plane. Feel the beat, let's do it again.
Get out on the dance floor!
Beatmania is a scratch DJ arcade game franchise that began in 1997. The game consists of scrolling notes, and you smash the keys and scratch the turntable with the music. And if that sounds familiar, it's because Beatmania spearheaded what we now know as the rhythm game genre. And that same team would continue to innovate on the concept with games like Dance Dance Revolution in the years to come. If we went through and talked about every single little thing that makes Beatmania awesome, then we'd be here all day. So let's just do some bullet points instead, all right? All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the aesthetics. Beatmania's presentation is consistently experimental and interesting. Every single game has a different style from the last. This one's hip-hop themed, this one's in space, this one's themed like an airport. It was always doing something new while still keeping the fundamentals intact. And the fundamentals remain intact through the 20+ years of content the series has to offer. When you get into Beatmania, it just feels like this endless rabbit hole. The turnaround time on these games was so insanely quick back in the day that Konami just banged out a billion Beatmania games one after another. Look how many games there are, there's so many! Having a quick turnaround time does lead to a lot of the older Beatmania games feeling pretty busted, and that's not always a bad thing. The jank is a trademark of classic Beatmania. The people that don't appreciate jank like I do usually end up forgiving the game anyway, just because it's a genre trailblazer from before the new millennium. I just think the jank makes the games feel as funky as the soundtrack in this game is. Because the music in these games is very good soundtrack. I mean, you would hope that that's the case, considering that this is a DJ game where music is the focal point. For a large percentage of the first generation of Beatmania, the music was like just weird, like weird music. I don't know if it's fair to say that it's objectively bad. It can be hard to defend sometimes. It didn't take them too long to figure their stuff out and like set a standard, and it was pretty consistently good after that point. Okay, moving on, we're gonna talk about the control scheme. The control scheme is so cool. Like, the turntable is such a brilliant piece of engineering. I'm gonna do an IGN here and say that Beatmania really makes you feel like a DJ. The biggest thing that contributes to that feeling is that the game is key sounded, and that means when you press the key, it emits the sound. So if your timing is off, or you press the wrong key or something, then it makes the song sound weird. Beatmania invented that, and it was adopted by lots of other rhythm games like Guitar Hero. You don't have to know anything about music theory to know when something sounds weird. Key sounding takes advantage of this primal feeling and gives you immediate feedback, and it gives so much motivation to improve at the game. Nobody wants to go up on stage and play the piano and just suck in front of everyone. When you're learning an instrument, you just practice forever so that when you're up on that stage, you're totally ready for anything. That's what I mean when I say that Beatmania makes you feel like a dang DJ. It feels like you're actually learning a musical instrument. But unlike a musical instrument, Beatmania has many different playstyles for you to choose from. And that's one of the coolest things about the game, is that there isn't one single right way to play it. With Beatmania, there are no rules. You can play with the turntable on the left or on the right. You can just play without the turntable altogether. You want to play with 5 keys, 7 keys, 14 keys? Go for it, have fun. You can position your fingers any number of ways. It's all up to personal preference. And another freedom that Beatmania gives you is how the arcade machine sounds in the arcade. You're given access to analog EQ sliders so you can tune exactly how you want the arcade machine to sound in the arcade. How many arcade games do you know that do that? There's only one that comes to mind for me, and it's Beatmania. All of these reasons, and I'm sure many more, are why Beatmania is the flagship rhythm game in Japan. In the late 90s when it came out, it was stupid popular in Japan, like Pac-Man levels of popular. And it's been riding off of that residual success ever since. It remains at the top of the charts. Beatmania is the grandfather of all rhythm games, but despite how important and influential the game is, most people outside of Japan have never even even heard of it. And that's because sans a few experimental worldwide releases, Beatmania has always been Japan exclusive. And as a result, people outside of Japan have to jump through a ton of hoops to experience the game. Your first option should be to find out if you have a Beatmania arcade cab near you. Xenius iVanisher's arcade locator is a very valuable tool. If you do have one near you, then congrats. My nearest Beatmania cab is like an hour-and-a-half drive. It is quite the investment to go there. I know an hour and a half is not much compared to people that are like, well, my nearest Beatmania is an entire country away. We can all agree that playing the video game at home is very convenient. My number one recommendation for playing Beatmania at home is to acquire a PlayStation 2. Now, specifically a PlayStation 2 for a few reasons. First off, it can play PS1 games as well as PS2 games, and across those two libraries, you have a lot of Beatmania games to choose from. Usually, Japanese games wouldn't work on consoles that aren't from Japan, but a PlayStation 2 can easily be soft-modded to permanently region unlock the console using Mechapone. So it'll load any disc you put into it, regardless of where it's from, regardless of if it's a backup or not. It'll load anything, which is very convenient. And that convenience is very much appreciated, although it is overshadowed by Konami's ultimate inconvenience, that is append discs. Now, the way that append works is that there's a whole collection of Beatmania append games in which if you put them into the PlayStation, they won't start. Now, what they want you to do is they want you to load in your key disc like this, boop, close the lid, boot up your game, and then in the game's menu, you hit the change disc button, and then you can open it up, take your disc out, put your append disc in, and then close that, boot that up, and only then will the append game work. Apparently the reason they did it was due to some legal kerfuffle with Sony where they were only allowed to release a certain number of games per year, but they could only do it if it counted as an extension of a game they already released, so they started making appends. I don't know if that's true, it's just a plausible rumor that I've heard. Luckily, the PlayStation 2 Beatmania games were a lot easier. There was no append crap. You could just put the disc in and play the game. Thank God. If you want to play Beatmania on PlayStation, there are a ton of controller options available to you. Here are the ones that I have. This right here is the ASCII Beatmania controller, released in 1998. It is by far the most common controller you'll see for sale. The buttons aren't very good. You have to press exactly in the center of each button in order to get it to actuate. If you're too high or too low, the button will just tilt instead of actually pressing. Their turntable doesn't have much texture to it, which can make it quite difficult to grip with your fingers when you try to turn it. Depending on what condition it's in, the turntable can also build up quite a bit of resistance, making it even more difficult to spin. I mean, aesthetically though, I think it's a very pretty controller. It's got some nice decals, you know, it's not too large, and the pricing for these things is unbeatable. About $3 to $5 before shipping. Not $35, $3 to $5 before shipping. And that is why I have so many of these. You know, this one's new in box. I have probably, I think, 5 of these sitting around somewhere because they're so common and they're so cheap. Very nice box, very pretty. I also have a few variants. This one is the TV Panic Original Premium model. It is exactly the same as the ASCII controller with the addition of a distinct decal on the turntable. This unit was never actually labeled for sale. It was used as a kiosk demo for a Japanese game store called TV Panic, which advertised the Beatmania PlayStation game in 1998. I asked around in the Beatmania 5-key community and nobody had ever seen anything like it. I am convinced that it is one of a kind. I scored this thing for $8, and I am very proud to own it. It's a piece of history, it's got a cool story behind it. I like it a lot. The final variant that I have of this controller is the Animal of Airs Famitsu Limited Edition. It's the first Beatmania controller to ever have lights in the buttons. You know, you see red on the top and green on the bottom. Look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. Disco? Disco? Os ondib el puk bit nos en los nom gambio malco. I've asked a bunch of people. Apparently the gibberish on the front is just gibberish. The story behind this thing is that if you bought a specific issue of Famitsu Wave magazine in the late 90s, you could send away for this controller. People can't seem to agree on the number of how limited edition it is, but I've heard that there are only 1,500 to 2,000 in existence, which I don't know if I believe. I see these pop up for sale all the time for relatively cheap. If it was that low of a number, I feel like I would see far less of them than I do. I got this thing for roughly $20, and considering the condition it's in, it was well worth the price. Next up, we have the DJ Man. Now this controller is transparent plastic. It doesn't really work too well on the green screen. The chroma key, it kind of messes it up, so I'm just gonna turn off the green screen for now. I'll turn it back on in the next segment. Show all your DJ skill now! Play with your hands and whole body! Let's cool now! You'll immediately notice that the buttons are modeled after actual piano keys. Every single key is lit in a weirdly pressure-sensitive way. Like, look at this. Look at that. What the heck is going on there? It also has a stereo composite pass-through, so you can plug your PlayStation's audio into it, and the turntable lights will glow based on the amplitude of the audio. And that's pretty cool. I was actually getting it to happen just by touching it. Just, I guess, because the noise of the cables is doing that. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, look at it, it's doing the thing. I plugged it into the PlayStation, now it's doing it. But that is not the only gimmick it has to offer. It has a 3.5mm jack on the bottom. If you shove your headphones in there, it's not gonna do anything, because that ain't for your headphones, that's for the Rumble wrist sets. That jack is for a peripheral that you strap to each of your wrists, and it rumbles to the rhythm of whatever song you're playing. And as far as I know, every Beatmania PlayStation game supports them. I can't even find a photo of the Rumble wrist sets, so here's something that's pretty close. The only evidence that I could find of these things existing is from a written description on a Beatmania fan's website from 1999. Kind of a stupid gimmick. I would much rather it just have a headphone pass-through, kind of like what the DJ Station Pro has. Some poor sap paid 7,800 yen for this thing. I did not pay anywhere near that much. 7,800 yen is not retail price. As far as I know, this thing retailed for 10,000 yen, which equals to around 100 bucks. This person paid like 78 bucks. I paid $16 for this in box with a copy of the game, which is absolutely sinful considering how good this controller is. So here it is right here. Here's the boy himself. This is the best Beatmania 5-key controller for PlayStation by a long shot. I absolutely love this thing. It has this gorgeous silvery plastic finish with the glossy decal on the top. This is the professional edition. It's too cool. The buttons are all lit, also in a weirdly pressure sensitive manner. Look at this. What's that going on there? They also have a very short travel, which I find to be very fun to play on. The turntable is raised up really, really high, and it's super, super smooth, which I find to be very satisfying to play on. And the gimmick is that it has 2 sets of composite ports. This right here is the PlayStation. You plug the PlayStation in on the left, and then this goes out to here, which is the headphone jack, right? And then goes back out to your TV so that it can go out through your TV speakers. So that way you can plug in your PlayStation here and then have headphones and also go out to your TV. Brah! It's so cool. And the sliders right here, these control the volume of your headphones, as you know, as you can see, it says headphone volume right there. And you would think like, oh yeah, the one slider is for the headphones and the other one's for the TV, right? That makes sense. But no, both of these are for your headphones. One is for the left ear and one is for the right. In what situation would you ever want one ear of your headphones to be a different volume to the other? That is genuinely bizarre. Like every time I adjust the volume, I have to make absolutely sure the sliders are as equal to each other as possible. Like highly recommended controller, really, really actually good controller. Why are the sliders like that? Make this one for the headphones and this one for the TV. Don't make it each ear individual. Oh, I'm thinking of having my right ear be louder than the left one today. I love you, DJ Station Pro. You're so good. And next up we have this thing. Wait, no, this is for a different game. Never mind. Next up we have what's known as the 2DX USKOC, and that stands for United States Konami Official Controller. It originally shipped with the United States Beatmania 2006 release, which I have right here. This was my first ever Beatmania controller, and I paid $130 for it. That is way too much, but I had no idea what a good price would have been at the time. Buying it was my gateway into the Beatmania community, where I would later find out that you can easily find these for as low as 30 to 40 bucks. I paid quadruple that because I just didn't know any better, but all things considered, it's not that bad of a controller. And it has this pretty cool thing where you can pop this entire panel out. You take this little thing out right here, take it out, get out of there. Oh man, it's really in there. Oh man, oh, I don't have fingernails. I can't get it out. Screwdriver to the rescue, boink, yeah. You flip it around and you shove it right back in there. Flip the whole thing over, and now your turntable is on the right. Always good to have inclusivity for southpaws or people that just prefer it this way. I think it's pretty neat. Next up we have the Beatmania Da controller, which has a lot more buttons than you'd expect, way more than the average Beatmania controller. So let's take a look at it. Yep, there it is. All these buttons, and they couldn't put a turntable on it. And of course it only works with one game, like, okay, thanks Konami. Get it out of here. And now I will carefully put everything back in the box. This controller cost me $45,000. So that's all of the retro controllers that I have, but there are a few more goodies that I imported that I wanted to show you. This is the Beatmania Pocket 1. It's a cute little LCD game from 1998. I paid about 42 bucks for it, but I was fine with paying that because this was sealed when I got it. This is all the original packaging. I don't know why, but I really like little old LCD gadgets. Something about them is really charming to me. I've also got its big brother here, the Beatmania Pocket 2. This one I got loose. It doesn't have any of the original packaging, but I paid a lot less for it as a result. This was like maybe 25 bucks. They also had another way to play these games portably, which was Beatmania GB. Konami was all about making weird Game Boy versions of their rhythm games. I'm just gonna move these fellas out of the way real quick. There we go. This one doesn't have a plastic clip-on little controller. You actually have to use the buttons on it. For the 5 keys, it's, you know, left, up, right, B, A, and start is to scratch. These had a very specific market in mind when they were created, one that doesn't really exist now. You can emulate the big boy Beatmania games on pretty much anything nowadays. So if you wanted to play Beatmania 5-key portably back in like 1998 through 1999, I mean, you got some good options for doing so. These are pretty cool. I'm actually pretty impressed at how cheap I was able to get this game. I got this for $5.84, and that was sealed. Like, this was in box. I opened this for the first time. Next up, I've got books galore. I've got the Beatmania Press Mix, as well as the Beatmania Second Mix official guide for the PlayStation game. This was $11, somewhere around there, and it's pretty basic. It shows like a lot of the different charts and patterns and like how to play them and stuff like that. But the reason why I wanted this was because it has a copy of Beatmania original CD in there with one of the best Beatmania songs ever, Cat Song. I love that song. It's really good, and yeah, I'm really glad that the CD was in here because that makes me very happy to have. It's a great little piece of history right there. But sadly, I did not get so lucky with the Beatmania Press Mix. The CD was stolen out of there, and that's fair. I mean, this book is from a long time ago. I imagined that, you know, they put that with their CD collection or something. It's not like a thing you leave in a book. Like, you know, when you get a bonus disc in a book, you're not just gonna leave it in there. Like, come on. So this book was made to promote Beatmania Third Mix when that was still new and it was coming out. It's got interviews with a lot of the musicians that produced music for the game. It's got lots and lots of different diagrams for song charts in the games. This book was particularly interesting to me because at the end, it catalogs all of the merch. Oh, there's an ad for Poppin' Music. I have never seen some of these, but yeah, what of these do I have? Well, I'll show you. I have this ridiculously bright orange Beatmania beanie. It is so gaudy, it is unbelievable. I got this for $37. That might seem like a lot, but hear me out. I got this sealed. I opened this for the very first time. Now, this is from 1997. You know, you don't want some dude's sweat hanging out in there for that long. It's gonna ruin it. Another weird piece of apparel that I have is this Beatmania bag with the classic hard and fat marketing. That was so big. In 1997, 1998, every piece of Beatmania merch had this exact copy on it. But yeah, I mean, this is nice. You know, I use this whenever I go to the arcade. I throw a bunch of water bottles in here and then sling it over my shoulder. It's a nice little thing. I like it. Got this for about 17 bucks. You know, that's about as much as I would pay for one of these that didn't have a Beatmania logo on it, so there you go. The reason I've been giving prices on every single item I've shown you is because it's very easy to overpay for these sorts of things. Like I mentioned earlier with the US KOC, I didn't know any better, and I ridiculously overpaid. In this segment, I'll be talking about where you can actually get Beatmania stuff without getting price gouged out the wazoo. Now, this segment is sponsored, but I was going to talk about it anyway, and BUYEE was kind enough to let me say what I wanted to say while sponsoring me to do so. First off, if you're looking on eBay, you're in the wrong place. You're gonna want to import your Beatmania stuff directly from Japan using a proxy service, and BUYEE is my proxy service of choice. This video would not have been possible without them. So what actually is a proxy service? Okay, so here's how it works, right? You go on BUYEE.jp and you buy some goods from a Japanese storefront like Yahoo Auctions Japan or Mercari. You got some Beatmania controllers in your cart, it's looking all good. You pay for them, and then they're shipped to BUYEE's warehouse, where they will handle all the customs, add a ton of protective packaging so it'll be sure to survive the trip, and then ship it overseas to you. Now, the best way to take advantage of BUYEE's service is that they will keep items in their warehouse for you until you're ready to have them shipped out. So what you can do is order a whole bunch of things over a period of 30 days, have them all sent as one package with only one shipping fee to worry about. That's something that you just can't do on eBay. BUYEE was feeling generous and wanted to give you all 2,000 yen off of your first time purchase using this link. And that's equal equals somewhere around $15, you can genuinely get a beatmania controller and a copy of the game for that much. The link is on screen and in the description. If you wanted to go snag some beatmania stuff, now's a good excuse to do it, so thank you, BUYEE. I really appreciate you guys. If you're planning to get a retro controller from BUYEE, make sure you're prepared to use it on a real PlayStation console. From my own experience, attempting to adapt retro PlayStation beatmania controllers to work on a PC is a fool's errand. I've tried this thing, I've tried this thing, and I've tried this thing, and none of them have worked properly. People swear by this one. This is the one people recommend for beatmania controllers, and it equally didn't work. The generic blue one was the closest to actually functioning, but the polling rate was so embarrassingly low that it tanked my accuracy numbers. The only way I've seen people use these old PlayStation controllers on a PC is by opening them up and hard modding them, completely swapping out the control board with a fan-made solution, for instance, a US Bimani. But that's a ton of work, and the majority of people don't have the experience or know-how to make something like that happen. So the long and short of it is, if you want a beatmania controller for PC, you gotta get one that has that capability built in. That's just the way it goes. And lucky for you, there's a lot of options to choose from in that regard, but the only one I have personal experience with is the DJI Phoenix One. The Phoenix One does everything it can to be as close to the arcade experience as possible. The buttons, the springs, the micro switches, the turntable, everything is arcade accurate. The Phoenix One is widely considered the gold standard when it comes to beatmania controllers. If you're serious about the game, you're getting one of these things, no question about it. It'll run you about $300, maybe a little more depending on shipping. They also very recently released the Phoenix One Plus, which is a little bit more expensive. It is hyper customizable in the hardware and software end. As you can see, mine looks a little bit different than the standard Phoenix One because I have customized mine. I made this custom turntable decal. I also made all my custom little buttons. You press a button on the back, you can open this little panel here, and when you do that, it gives you full access to all of the switches and everything in there. You can easily swap your switches, your springs, your buttons, and tweak it exactly to your preference. It also has that thing that most 2DX controllers have where you can flip this panel over, and then boom, you're in two-player mode. It's that easy. But I'ma switch it back because I like it the other way around. Boop, and flip-a-doo. On the software end, there's a ton of different controller modes so you can make it compatible with all your different games and whatnot. Very good stuff. The thing is, if you're getting a Phoenix One, you have to be prepared to be a nerd. I'm a super nerdy guy. I restore arcade machines. Troubleshooting is my bread and butter. Maybe the same goes for you. But if you're looking for a controller that you can plug and play and have it just work, then look elsewhere. When it's working, it's amazing. But from my experience, you have to be prepared for it to stop at any moment. I got my brand new Phoenix One out of the box, plugged it in, and it wasn't working properly. My inputs and my lights would intermittently go out. So I opened it up and noticed that it got a little knocked around during shipping, and some of the quick disconnect terminals had popped off of their respective buttons. No big deal, you just pop them back on. Not so easy. Some of the terminals weren't making proper contact. I reached out to them in an email. They said to use pliers to crimp the connector a little bit more. You know, that didn't work. They said they could send me another connector, but I'd have to pay shipping. I didn't want to do that. Long story short, after a month of troubleshooting, I eventually got fed up and I just soldered the dang wire directly to the connector. A friend of mine got the same controller and had the exact same problem in a different spot. For $300, that is unacceptable. It getting knocked around during shipping isn't their fault, I get that. But if the terminals are fallible enough that they can die during shipping, they should at least include some spares in the box or something. Externally, it is fantastic. These buttons are unreal. The turntable is the best I've ever felt in my life. Maybe it was just a fluke between my friend and I, but my experience was negatively colored because of all the technical issues I had with it. Maybe you'll get lucky and you won't have any of these problems, but I felt like it would be dishonest if I didn't mention it. Alrighty, moving on. In this video, I've focused primarily on the late 90s generation of beatmania, and that's for no other reason than just because I really like it. It has this smoking hot attitude, this wild, funky aesthetic, and a heavy overtone of underground dance culture. But beatmania has come a long way since then. Today's video game scene is completely different than it was in the 90s, and beatmania grew and changed with time. Modern beatmania 2DX has the benefit of 20 years of polish. Tons of quality of life tweaks, along with a massive selection of content, means that the franchise is more palatable to newcomers than it ever was. When it comes to buying controllers, you have this generational gap, where buying an older controller limits you to only being able to use it on old games, while buying a new controller limits you to the new. I felt like there didn't exist a good entry-level controller that broke the traditional boundaries of strict button layouts and could enable anyone to experience whatever generation of beatmania they please. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the project we've been working on for the past 6 months, the BUYEE. It's a low-profile mechanical keyboard controller primarily focused on beatmania. Yes, it has a turntable, and yes, it feels amazing. The BUYEE does everything it can to empower the flexibility that beatmania encourages. 5 keys, done. 7 keys, no prob. Poppin' music, make it happen. Turntable on the left or on the right. Want to pop the turntable off and replace it with a button? Whatever, we don't care, man. Playing simulators, emulators, Infinitas, it'll do it all. Although it was heavily inspired by the Phoenix One, it is not an outright replacement for it. The BUYEE was not created to be endgame. It was made as an accessible entry point so you can be confident about what to pursue further. And it comes in clutch by being significantly smaller than the average beatmania controller, so you can actually bring it with you when you're out and about. If you're interested, head over to our new website, KAYBOARDS.com, smash your email address into the newsletter box, and we'll let you know when they're next in stock. The BUYEE is fully open source, so if you want to build your own, you can absolutely do that too. If this video got you all hyped up to try beatmania, I highly recommend you check out 2dx.org, which is a brilliantly verbose English guide on getting started with the game. Lots of good resources and information. It's certainly worth a read. You can also feel free to join my Discord server at discord.gg/clue if you have questions about the BUYEE, about beatmania, or if you just want to reach out to me. That's the best way to do it. My DMs are always open. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/clue, and when you subscribe there with any tier, you get access to my Discord premium blog where you get to see what I'm working on before anybody else. I apologize for this video taking so long to come out. The script was drastically reworked multiple times. I was originally going to go into the politics of the game, like a lot of its shortcomings and how Konami could make it more accessible. It was very critical, and I'm not used to writing stuff like that, so it took me a while. I even got all that VO recorded just for it all to be cut out completely because it was boring and it didn't make sense in a video that's supposed to be introductory to the game. That sort of thing can take a long time to figure out. It's hard. Making videos is hard. And on top of that, I lose a lot of time from days that I am completely disabled by my horribly depressive brain. So you factor that in, videos like this just end up deleting a percentage of my life. From this point forward, I'm going to try and make videos that are a bit smaller in scope, but that I can get out at a more reasonable pace. That's my goal. But yeah, thank you for sticking with me. Thank you to everyone that believed in me, all the people that I worked with to make this video happen. It means the world to me. I love you all so much.